Graham, we'll get to events of the last week or so just shortly, but I want to start by asking your own earliest recollections of Martin O'Neill when he first arrived in Scottish football way back in June 2000.
Wow. Right, Tino, thanks for having me on. First of all, good to chat to you. I was there in late May, early June 2000 when Martin came up, did the press conference at Celtic, unveiled as a new Celtic manager. It was going to be Gus Hiddink, wasn't it? That was all the chat in the weeks building up to it. I remember Radio Clyde the Saturday before Martin was unveiled, you know, in the race to be the first to break the news. Radio Clyde at 2 p.m. That's it. DJ, Celtic have got their new manager. It's Gus Hiddink. They've been down in Spain. I remember vividly Clyde broadcasting, breaking this news. And I think the Sunday papers that weekend followed it up that Hiddink was going to be the next Celtic manager. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Tino, but I think that was very much what happened. And then we know what kind of happened. Dermot Desmond stepped in, spoke to Alex Ferguson. Fergie recommended Martin. And then the whole Celtic journey search took a new direction. So Martin becomes a new manager, and I was there. And actually, when I look back, I sometimes think, my God, I mean, I spent 5 years of my life. Every time Martin looked over his shoulder, I was there with the Rat Pack, the newspaper pack, in Glasgow, in Edinburgh, in Aberdeen, in Dundee, in Barcelona, in Munich, in Seville. We were every step of the way. So I feel like I kind of chronicled his every move. It was either, obviously, at Celtic or Rangers, which was my job at the time at the Herald. So, yeah, I remember his unveiling, and I remember it being really exciting because Dick Advocaat was at Rangers. He'd been there for a couple of years. Rangers had been on this great journey, and Martin O'Neill comes in and he faces this almighty task. But from virtually, I know we can talk about all this, I'm racing ahead here, but from virtually that first week or that first month, what I thought was very obvious at Martin at Celtic was just the psychological strength he gave the club. He just gave Celtic this belief. You could feel it in the stands, you could feel it in the boardroom, you could feel it among the players, and that was one of the main things that I think Martin brought back then and is probably bringing today.
I think he was studying law as a very young man before he made his way across to Notts Forest and everything that followed, Nottingham Forest. And we'll get to the psychology and the man management and all those things just a bit later on in the piece, Graham. But you're obviously pretty close to Martin now, maybe as close as anyone is professionally. But what was he like back then? We're talking quarter of a century ago. What was he like back then in terms of how he dealt with yourself and your colleagues in the press? Was he spiky, fair to deal with, somewhere in between? What was he like?
He was quite... he was very Martin O'Neill-like. He was a bit eccentric, funny in a wacky, off-the-wall kind of way, prone to going down avenues of conversation that you didn't really want him to go down, going off at tangents. He was engaging, and he was a little bit formidable as well. You didn't mess with Martin, you know, you didn't try and mess with him. And if you did, you got this withering stare. Although in a funny kind of way, you could see it back then and you can see it now. It's a bit weird. Martin himself sometimes is not totally comfortable being in the spotlight, dealing with the media. He's got certain defense mechanisms he uses, you know. He's not always at ease with the media, but somehow he always held a position of power with us. So we used to enjoy going in to see him every Friday. For 5 years, twice a week, I spent half an hour around a table with Martin O'Neill when he was at Celtic first time round. And he was engaging. He was normally quite calculating in what he told you. And he's always been a bit eccentric, a wee bit off the wall.
That's the end of the preview on this bonus episode from Celtic Exchange, but the full episode's available right now over on Patreon, which is where you'll find all of our additional shows, including pre- and post-match for every game, a range of bonus features, plus the daily podcast, which we record every weekday morning. As a member, you'll also get access to our exclusive members-only Celtic Chat community and a host of other benefits, all for just £5 a month. And you can be there in just a few clicks by heading to patreon.com/Celtic Exchange, where you'll join the growing community of Celtic fans who now get more from Celtic Exchange each and every week. So that's patreon.com/Celtic Exchange, or simply click the link in the show notes for this episode.